Pre-dawn at a classified missile facility in southern Russia. The installation remained undisturbed. No warnings, no activity, no indication of an imminent external threat. Within minutes, a site deemed impenetrable descended into disorder. Alarms sounded as smoke billowed from auxiliary sectors. Command personnel scrambled for explanations. As the situation deteriorated rapidly, no hostile aircraft were detected. No cruise missiles and no evidence of a conventional assault. Whatever unfolded originated from a vector they had failed to anticipate. How could a minimal threat breach Russia's premier defenses? What transpired in the critical moments before collapse? And critically, how did a narrow vulnerability trigger an unforeseen catastrophe? Stay with Navy Elite as we analyze the complete operation. Russia's missile installation at Kapustin Yar entered a vulnerable state at 0300 hours. When silo doors opened for scheduled diagnostics, Russian personnel regarded this procedure as routine, yet the process briefly exposed internal systems, normally secured behind multiple protective barriers. For Ukrainian forces, this represented more than maintenance. It marked the window of opportunity, when a launcher valued at nearly $100 million exposed its most critical components to observation. Ukrainian reconnaissance assets monitored the site for 48 hours, tracking all activity until identifying the precise moment when cryogenic lines would become visible. These coolant pipes were essential for missile stabilization, but proved more vulnerable than the armored superstructure surrounding the silo. Ukrainian planners recognized the launcher could withstand bombardment, yet the support infrastructure could fail under precision strike. This assessment formed the operational centerpiece and directed all preparatory measures. Intelligence assets subsequently confirmed that intercepted Russian communications indicated a diagnostic test. This signified extended door exposure and potentially reduced defensive posture, as crews believed they were conducting routine maintenance rather than a high-threat scenario. This convergence of a diminished alertness and exposed equipment created a tactical window that Ukrainian command assessed as operationally decisive, directly informing how their strike architecture took form. Ukraine regarded the 300 window as the product of patience, discipline, and meticulous surveillance. A launcher in operational condition would resist significant damage, yet one intercepted during diagnostic transition exposed vulnerabilities Russia had not anticipated. The transitional phase forced systems into a state where defensive protocols were not fully synchronized, and Ukrainian planners concentrated efforts on that weakness to maximize effectiveness with constrained assets. Operational leadership recognized success required timing, synchronization, and operator confidence. A high-value launcher could only be engaged when defensive readiness was minimal, so Ukrainian units trained to execute upon silo exposure. Their objective was deploying small, economical platforms to neutralize costly Russian assets before facility personnel could comprehend the situation. When this narrow window materialized, Ukrainian forces executed immediately, initiating an asymmetric operation that establishes the framework for subsequent events. Ukraine commenced the asymmetric mission through deception, precise timing, and limited assets to degrade Russian response before defenders recognized the developing threat. The SSRU team orchestrated a simulated traffic incident 3 miles out, blocking the sole access route long enough to impede Russian movement. This tactical diversion delayed reinforcements during the window and diverted attention from the primary threat. Given its unremarkable appearance, it failed to activate alarms, and Russian patrols classified it as civilian-related. With the route blocked, Ukrainian assets maintained proximity without detection, establishing conditions required for the subsequent strike phase. Ukrainian forces then deployed OSA FPV drones from a concealed vehicle compartment. Each drone cost approximately $2,000, yet possessed sufficient agility to engage sensitive targets. These platforms could fly low, execute rapid course changes, and evade initial detection, making them optimal for operations requiring stealth approach, rather than heavy ordnance. With ground movement restricted and drones airborne, Ukraine exploited the natural conditions surrounding the base. Dense fog blanketing the area became a significant advantage, as it degraded visibility and compromised Russian sensor effectiveness throughout. Atmospheric moisture distorted radar signatures, generating blind spots that enabled drones to advance toward the installation. Ukraine maintained drones at low altitude, utilizing fog as natural concealment that compelled Russian operators to react with limited data and degraded decision speed. Systems including Tor M2 and Panzer S1 were engineered to intercept small drones, but required clear conditions for precise tracking data. In dense fog, these systems struggled to maintain accurate readings, and minor altitude shifts could defeat their target lock. The drones exploited this limitation through a narrow corridor, normally difficult to penetrate, providing Ukraine an opportunity to bypass outer defenses without direct engagement. With detection capability reduced, Ukraine transitioned from movement to precision targeting, Ukraine selected compact drones because precision outweighed explosive yield requirements. A conventional airstrike would have alerted Russian crews and triggered long-range defensive systems. But FPV drones could deploy instantly and navigate toward vulnerable components. Each drone carried a shaped charge, effective when directed at coolant lines, conduits, or exposed circuitry within the silo. These components maintained launcher functionality, and a single disruption could disable the entire system. Operators monitored sensor activity and adjusted flight paths to evade radar patterns, analyzing even minor frequency variations. By maintaining steady flight within fog and avoiding abrupt climbs, the drones minimized detection probability and preserved stable control. This methodology demonstrated how economical platforms can challenge costly systems when employed with discipline, intelligence, and timing. Yet reaching the inner zone represented only partial success, as the final target required penetrating Russia's strongest defenses. The entire mission followed clear doctrine: neutralize the support infrastructure. Rather than attempting to destroy hardened structures, Ukraine understood the launcher's armored shell could withstand significant strikes. But the diagnostic cycle revealed internal components considerably easier to damage. This vulnerability governed all operational movements and directed how drones approached the critical cryogenic equipment. The objective was striking fragile systems before Russian sensors could stabilize and before reinforcements arrived via the blocked route. By integrating deception, weather, and precision, Ukraine leveraged minimal assets to threaten a high-value target and generate significant disruption with constrained resources. This operation demonstrated that modern warfare rewards timing and adaptability more than raw firepower. To reach the cryogenic pipes, the drones still needed to breach Russia's remaining defensive layers. Ukraine commenced penetrating Russia's defenses by targeting the electronic warfare layer initially, as this system determined how the entire defensive network responded. OSA-1 advanced directly into the defensive zone, deliberately provoking the Krasika 4 jammer. Upon detecting the signal, the jammer increased output to sever the control link. Ukrainian operators recorded the operating frequency, the pulse rhythm, and the direction of maximum emission strength. This enabled the team to map the electronic barrier and determine where the jammer concentrated its energy. OSA-1 was expected to be sacrificed, as its primary purpose was acquiring intelligence beyond satellite observation capabilities. The team also noted the delay between jammer power, surge, and stabilization. This timing data helped estimate system reaction speed to subsequent threats, particularly during signal saturation periods. With the electronic shield mapped, Ukraine advanced to engage long-range air defenses. OSA-2 targeted the long-range layer protecting the silo. It ascended to higher altitude, generating a substantial radar return to attract the S-400 battery. The system launched a 48N6 missile that destroyed the drone instantly, but the engagement revealed fire control radar position and angle. Ukrainian analysts used this data to identify a brief reset period. When the S-400 could not re-engage, that delay became a critical access window for subsequent drones. Analysts also tracked coordination signals between the radar and adjacent units, which revealed how the long-range layer integrated with other defensive elements protecting the silo. With the long-range radar exposed and temporarily offline, Ukraine pushed the next drone into the inner zone. OSA-3 entered the area defended by the Tor M2 system. The Tor detected the drone and launched an interceptor, but OSA-3 executed a sharp dive into dense fog. The moisture degraded radar accuracy, and the missile lost guidance before self-destructing. For several seconds, OSA-3 maneuvered freely within the fog, demonstrating how altitude changes and environmental factors could disrupt advanced tracking systems. Moments later, the Panzer S-1 activated close-range defense mode, firing 57 E-6 rockets that generated a dense fragment cloud. OSA-3 was destroyed, but the burst forced the Panzer to pause before transitioning to precision fire. This behavior matched patterns Ukraine had analyzed previously, confirming that Panzer crews consistently required a brief recalibration interval following area denial rocket deployment. That brief defensive delay opened a critical path for the final drone to reach the strike zone. The pause following fragment rocket deployment represented one of the most predictable patterns identified. During this interval, the Panzer S-1 recalibrated sensors and adjusted tracking cycles, limiting its capacity to engage new threats. Ukrainian operators exploited this moment and advanced the final drone into the inner zone before defenses could reconstitute. By this stage, the initial 3 drones had revealed defensive architecture. OSA-1 mapped the electronic barrier, OSA-2 exposed long-range radar positions, and OSA-3 demonstrated how fog degraded mid-range tracking. Together, these actions generated a complete tactical picture that directed the final drone toward the cryogenic system. At the silo center, without the precise timing and sacrifice of preceding drones, the path would have remained obscured, and the decisive strike would have been impossible. This narrow opening enabled the final drone to commence its decisive approach, leading directly into the critical strike. The final Ukrainian drone, OSA 4, became the mission centerpiece, as it was the sole platform still capable of reaching the silo's weak point. It had sustained fragment damage from the Panzer burst, and the engine could no longer deliver stable thrust. The drone listed to one side and lost some stability, yet the FPV operator declined to force a straight trajectory. Instead, he utilized the unstable motion tactically. By guiding OSA 4 into a tight spiral around the silo superstructure, he concealed the drone within narrow, blind zones that Russian gunners could not cover. This spiral pattern reduced detection and minimized Russian tracking opportunities. The closer OSA 4 orbited the silo wall, the smaller its radar and thermal signature became. Each rotation masked the drone behind concrete surfaces, and Russian sensors increasingly failed to maintain lock. The pilot used rapid throttle inputs to maintain alignment, while sustaining the spiral maneuver. Observers later described it as one of the most challenging FPV maneuvers executed throughout the entire conflict. This innovative high-pressure flight gave OSA 4 a path through the final defensive ring, setting up the approach to the silo's most vulnerable point. When OSA 4 reached the inner perimeter, the pilot exploited the dead angle under the silo's upper edge to evade the remaining defensive guns. Russian operators attempted to reposition weapons to cover this unexpected angle, but lacked the time the situation demanded. Every passing second gave the drone improved shot alignment. The pilot then identified the 5-inch liquid nitrogen pipe feeding the missile cooling system, which was exposed during the diagnostic procedure. OSA 4 accelerated toward the line and struck it directly. The impact ruptured the pipe and released a rapid cloud of extremely cold nitrogen. Temperatures around the breach plummeted instantly, and the metal structure contracted unevenly. This caused multiple welds to fracture, exposing electrical wiring with no protection against rapid thermal shock. When the short circuit propagated into the warhead handling area, heat and sparks ignited the conventional explosives stored beside the missile support frame. What followed was not merely mechanical failure, it was a cascading collapse that destroyed the silo from within. The induced explosion twisted the 48-ton launcher into a bent and collapsed configuration. Debris scattered across the site as the control tower went dark. Within seconds, area sensors detected seismic readings equivalent to 1.9 magnitude, confirming the explosion's intensity. Russian emergency teams attempted to reach the silo, but internal supports had already collapsed. Engineers later reported the cooling chamber caved inward and fractured the missile rails, rendering the launcher beyond repair. This destruction exceeded the loss of a strategic platform. It proved that economical drones, combined with precise tactics and real-time adaptation, could defeat the most sophisticated missile defenses. OSA 4 had transformed extreme danger into a historic operational success. The impact of this strike extended far beyond one damaged silo, generating broader consequences for Russia's entire air defense posture. The destruction of the Kapustin Yar launcher sent immediate shockwaves through Russian command. As this silo type is extremely scarce and slow to reconstruct, Russia can only produce a few units annually, and each silo requires complex cooling infrastructure, reinforced steel, and sensitive electronics. Losing one means losing years of production capacity, which diminishes missile testing capability and strategic readiness. The loss also degraded Russia's strategic image, as the facility had been promoted as among the nation's most secure and advanced test facilities. The blast disrupted defensive architecture surrounding the range. Kapustin Yar depends on overlapping radar and missile coverage, yet the launcher's loss removed an anchor point in that network. Without it, an exposed corridor appeared in the air defense shield, creating a gap Ukraine could exploit in future operations. This shift generated both tactical and psychological impact, signaling that even hardened facilities no longer guaranteed protection. This initial shock forced the Russian Defense Ministry to implement emergency measures far beyond the destroyed silo. Following the strike, Russia halted several connected testing sites, fearing similar vulnerabilities existed elsewhere. Engineers and technicians were reportedly suspended, while investigators reviewed diagnostic schedules, silo access protocols, and electronic protection procedures. The uncertainty slowed the entire missile testing program and intensified pressure on senior officers, already contending with resource constraints. To secure the exposed region, Russia relocated critical radars, electronic warfare platforms, and short-range missile assets away from the front lines. These redeployments strengthened rear defenses, but weakened frontline formations that relied on these systems for drone detection, artillery guidance, and supply corridor protection. With fewer sensors and reduced electronic shielding, field commanders lost situational awareness as Ukraine expanded drone operations across multiple sectors. As Russia scrambled to stabilize defenses, international observers began analyzing the broader implications of the Ukrainian strike. The operation attracted attention from defense planners in the United States, Israel, and Poland because it demonstrated how economical drones could defeat heavily protected missile systems. Analysts noted how Ukraine integrated decoys, fog, and precise FPV control to penetrate costly defensive layers without requiring heavy ordnance. This challenged long-standing assumptions about silo-complex survivability and compelled reassessment of missile defense doctrine. Some experts argued that future conflicts will be defined by rapid, flexible, and economical platforms that achieve strategic effects at a fraction of conventional costs. Others emphasized the criticality of deception and electronic disruption, as these methods enabled Ukraine to penetrate multiple defensive rings while acquiring valuable sensor intelligence. The strike demonstrated that modern warfare trends toward cost, effective disruption where careful planning, and real-time intelligence can outmatch superior equipment. And while Russia struggled to contain the fallout, Ukraine prepared a second operation, targeting the core of Russia's electronic warfare network. The second Ukrainian operation targeted the Krasuka 4 electronic warfare system because it protected Russian armored units across the sector. Its position became compromised when a Russian soldier posted a brief selfie video that inadvertently contained GPS metadata. Ukrainian cyber teams extracted coordinates within minutes, transforming a simple error into a major intelligence advantage and giving Ukraine an opportunity to act before Russia could relocate the platform. Ukraine then launched a two-layer attack designed to overload Russian defensive networks. In the upper layer, 5 Banshee decoys climbed to altitude and broadcast radar signatures, resembling fighter aircraft. These signals activated Russian tracking systems and compelled operators to redirect focus upward. The decoys enabled Ukrainian teams to collect radar data, timing, and response patterns, providing clearer understanding of defensive layout. In the lower layer, 10 FPV drones flew close to terrain, utilizing programmed waypoint routes. Low-altitude flight kept them beneath most radar coverage, and digital maps maintained their course. Even when jamming commenced, the Tor M2 system responded by destroying several decoys, and each engagement revealed details about radar angles and firing rhythm. Ukrainian electronic support units recorded these emissions, building a profile of defensive behavior under pressure. Once the upper layer diverted Russian attention, Ukraine advanced to the phase targeting the Krasuka 4 directly, as Russian troops activated handheld jammers to disrupt the low-Su flying FPVs. Ukraine deployed a specialized FPV designated as a digital sniper. This drone fired a focused electronic burst that overloaded the Krasuka 4 receiver, rendering its display blank and eliminating its ability to coordinate nearby units. With the jammer blinded, the main defensive shield began failing. 6 remaining FPVs closed in, using the antenna's visual signature as their terminal guide. This reference point maintained accuracy. Even when GPS signals degraded, the lead drone detonated inside the antenna housing, causing internal overpressure damage, fire, and complete system failure. With the Krasuka 4 destroyed, T-90 tanks and BMP-3 vehicles lost coordination and became vulnerable. Ukrainian forces rapidly targeted the scattered armored units as they attempted to withdraw. Without their electronic shield, Russian crews struggled to reconsolidate, transforming the retreat into a costly rout. The operation demonstrated how decoys, electronic bursts, and precise FPVs can dismantle a high-value system, designed to neutralize attacks before they reach their targets. With both missions accomplished, Ukraine delivered a clear message about modern combat's future. The Kapustin Yar strike demonstrates that economical drones can destroy high-value strategic systems within seconds, proving modern warfare is no longer defined by expensive missiles alone. Ukraine demonstrated a clear strike and blind model where rapid attacks, powerful electronic disruption, and precise timing can exploit even minor failures within complex defense networks. This approach forced Russia to confront vulnerabilities it had long ignored, increasing pressure on commanders to develop new methods for protecting critical assets. Russia may respond with dual-frequency radars, protective silo covers, or by relocating testing facilities deeper into Siberia. Yet each option demands time and funding that are difficult to provide during active conflict. Meanwhile, the United States, Israel, and Poland are already analyzing these tactics to inform next-generation missile defense systems. Are we entering the true era of economical drones? And can Russia adapt in time? War may reveal humanity's darkest impulses, but understanding it allows us to protect what matters most: peace, stability, and the people caught in between. If you seek clear analysis that transforms complex conflicts into lessons we can all learn from, this channel serves you. Subscribe to Navy Elite and join a community that values knowledge over fear. which was valued at $13.65 million. But